in 3 seconds.
Okay.
We are live.
Very good. Hi, class. Thom here. I know I sound exactly like Ghaith, but this is Thom. And I've opened up a file explorer here, and I'm looking in my C drive, and I want to focus on the users directory. And I know y'all can all tell that would be my number. So there we go. That's my username on this computer. And we looked at this last week where we another time. And by the way, on our repo, there's in the 0 directory for tools, install, and setup, there we're growing instructional videos to back up these lectures, because if anything's going to grow cold in your memory, it's how to install and set up tools. So, and we talked about the public key, and that's the one that you would use when you want to create a secure shell connection between you and another application somewhere. In our case, it's GitHub. But I want to focus on another environment today, or excuse me, another directory today, and that's this environments directory. Now, when you install Virtual Environment Wrapper for Windows, oh, okay, Avinash, we will cover that. You know, I'm realizing I'm going to have some midweek sessions, and I'm sorry I haven't gotten to them yet. Ghaith and I are in a crunch time with our book, but I think I can set up a midweek call to cover these kind of things. But I do think that if you watch that video that is now in our repo under the 0 directory, they're numbered. That's why I'm calling it the 0 directory, 0 tool setup, etc. You'll see it. And by the way, you can just look at those on GitHub. You don't have to always do a fresh pull. So if we go look at the environments directory here, you can see that I have a bunch of virtual environments. Now, these are ones I just created for the video that I made the other night. And I'll probably even demonstrate removing those in another video. But these are real directories that I use for various reasons. Now, this one's probably the one that I was using the most in my personal development for my work. Then Python 3.8 came out, and I didn't really have time to transition everything. And now we're already on Py 3.9 standard. But you can see even with 3.7, the new ones were just practice ones for the videos. But you can see with 3.7, I have a serious one called Web. That's a virtual environment that would have much different pip installs for doing full stack web development with Python type frameworks. Now, the other thing I want y'all to see is, and again, this is a little bit of repeat, so I apologize for that. If we go to app data right here, I'm going to go into that. I'll go into local. And then this is kind of like, if you've been with Windows for a while, this will look familiar. Once I get down to this level, users, username, app data local, you're kind of back to old Windows. But this is for you specifically, and this is where your programs would be installed. And then here are the various versions of Python I have installed. Now, if you only have one version of Python, it would still look like this. It's just that you would only have one version showing. And probably the most used directory after this main directory for Python is the scripts directory right here. And we're going to uninstall this so you can see how to use pip uninstall. But there's some of my files for virtual environment wrapper for Windows, excuse me. And so I just want y'all to see where these locations are. But another thing, and we'll go over this again later, if I just click over here, you see how if I click down in the white window, it goes back to that. But if I click up in here, I can do that, and it's already highlighted. I can put that in my keyboard buffer and be super lazy and not have to type all that out. So I keep a lot of these File Explorer windows open just so I can copy these paths when I'm doing shell work. And what shell would we want to use? I'm a big fan of this one. Oh, excuse me, I was clicking on the wrong thing. So if we look at this, con emu, and I'm on a 64-bit machine, so I installed the 64-bit version. But what does this do? It's kind of like if you're familiar with where did it go? It opened somewhere else. I got to find it now. It's open. Okay, this gets tricky sometimes. Why is it hiding? Let's see, where did it go? It is hiding from me. Let me see if I can find it. Oh. Okay, this is going to test my Windows skills in front of y'all. There we go. This is a little trick when your windows hide from you. Get it to where you can see this move command and then start hitting your arrow keys. And I do not know where it's hiding. You know what, Ghaith? What screen are y'all seeing? You're seeing my mouse?
Your Python directory.
Thank you. There's confusing things going on my machine. So let me see if I can find this window. This is not good. It's literally, there it went, found it. Okay, if Windows ever does that to you with a program, all you got to do is get that highlighted, excuse me, this is a super valuable trick. You get that highlighted like that. You right click when you see this, and you click the move and you start hitting your arrow keys until it shows up. That's what I had to do. I don't know why it was doing that. Okay. Now I'm out at the main level, the system level. I'm not in any virtual environments, in other words. So I could go look at my path variable right now to see if I type Python to start the Python interpreter, I may not know which Python version it's going to start up. There's two ways to find out. Just do it, or go look at your path variable and see which version of Python shows up first in your path. The one that shows up first is the one that's going to start when you do this. If you want to start a different interpreter, you would go back over here like we were doing and go start a specific one. So you would go up one directory, like right here, and you would just, instead of typing Python here, you would do this and then type Python. And I'll just show you this. Sure enough, it started Python 3.7. Now I'll exit out of this interpreter, and I'm just going to do instead Python. So it started 3.9. Again, in the case where you want to run a specific Python interpreter or do something with a specific Python version, and it's not, that version is not at the top of your path, you just need to lazily go over here and find where your Python installs are, copy the path you want, and then you can force it to use a specific version of Python for something at the command line. But in this case, I'm going to just use Python, my latest install, Python 3.9.2. Now I'm going to exit that, and that was just to show and make sure we're going to be using Python 3.9. I'm going to do CLS, and that'll give me a clean blackboard here. Okay. Now pip uninstall virtual env, short for environment, wrapper -win. I figured this was a good time to show y'all how to uninstall something with pip. So yes, I want to do that. And by the way, pip's very forgiving. You uninstall something, you reinstall it, or you just update it. All of that's very forgiving processes. So now I'm going to be extra lazy again. I'm just going to up arrow. That uses my last command in the buffer, and I just need to backspace so I can do this. By the way, for those of you that are showing up late, I did create an instructional video for this lecture, so you won't really miss anything. And it's in our repo now. Okay, I'm going to now reinstall that, like pretending I didn't have it installed before. And it goes pretty fast on this one. Okay. Now, I have virtual environment wrapper installed. Well, now I'd like to create a new virtual environment, or maybe my first one. One of the commands, probably the one you'll use the most for virtual environment, is work on. Now, normally I could go in ahead and say, okay, I want my 3.9 standard. By the way, this is just a naming convention that I created from myself. You can name them whatever you want, but I'm just going to type work on first. There's all my virtual environments I was showing y'all before. Again, we'll go review those all the way up here, go back down to environments, and there they are in that form too. So I can see them either way, right there. Now, if you ever forget the names of some of the commands you can use inside of virtual environment wrapper for Windows, I should point out too, guys, what if you were doing this on Linux? You wouldn't need the -win, but you could check that too. And then you could install this for Linux too. But now that I've seen this list 2 different ways, what do I want to do? Let's see. I'm going to say work on one that I already have. Now you may be thinking, Tom, I don't have one. Let me just show you this for a minute first. Work on Pi 3.9 standard, and look at how this changes. It keeps me aware that I am in a virtual environment, which is very handy. Okay, now let's say I do some pip installs, I do some work with Python 3.9, and then, oh, I need to go work in another environment, or I want to create a new environment. I got to get out of this one first. It's as simple as this: deactivate. Now, I'm going to be a little brave and do this untested. I say that because I haven't done it in a while. So I'm going to start Google Chrome, and I'm going to just gamble here. Virtual environment wrapper docs. Oh, look at that. I can't cover everything in this lecture that you might want to know from now and far into the future. But when you want to know more about how to really hotwire this and do a lot more, you can go here. So I'm going to just move that over here for now, so it's handy. Okay, now let's actually make a new virtual environment. So I'm just going to call it make mk virtual. And by the way, those docs were important in case you forget this, but also, what if you're thinking, oh, I can't remember exactly how to spell that. So let's say instead of experimenting, I decide I really want to go make sure first. Again, I'm at my user level, and I just go over to, oops, up here, app data, local. Get used to this. You will go here a lot probably now that you're programmers, or if you're already a programmer, you know what I mean. We go down to programs, and now I can see that here's where all my Python goes. And since by the way, I should point this out too. I have I have virtual environment wrapper for Windows installed for all these versions of Python. So you install it each time for each version of Python if you want to use it for that one. But let me show you again. If you go to scripts, the various programs that it uses will show up in here. Well, and there's mine, make virtual environment. So I thought I'll just check before I enter it. And yes, I've typed it correctly. And I'm going to create a new one, Pi 3.9, cool. And it actually goes pretty fast. Now at this point, I'm inside the new cool environment, And well, one thing I know I'm going to want. So you may think, oh, Thom, I bet you would install a lot of things with pip once you create a brand new virtual environment. This is where you want to learn how to create requirement files. Super powerful. And I might even show that here in a minute, but I'm just going to pip install matplotlib. And I don't think it'll take very long. The reason I'm not showing you a pandas install is because it might take the rest of the class to see it install. In fact, this one might take a while. And if it does, I'll probably just let it go on while we go start another terminal window. Oh, thank God, because I really didn't test that ahead of time to see how slow it might go. Okay, so for your viewing pleasure, let's go up a little higher and go back and look in environments. And voila, there it is. Isn't that awesome? And again, we could have looked on it here. And there's the new cool environment right there. And we have that one.
There's one question. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, please.
I think this is. By the way, it's right now maybe 10 minutes. That question raised, but I want you to reach that point.
I think Sommer.
Sommer. Yes.
Yes, Dr. Sommer, you couldn't have asked me a better question. There is, by the way, I think PyCharm is awesome. I would not discourage any of you from using it. If you like it, I'd say that's great. Keep using it. Why do I not use PyCharm? Because it does too much for me. And I wanted to be forced to know how to do it from the command line. And some of you might be thinking, oh, Thom, yeah, you're a Linux guy. There probably isn't PyCharm for Linux. No, there's PyCharm for Linux. The what's their name? The group that makes PyCharm. They're a very good group, very smart group.
JetBrains, that.
Thank you. Yes. And can I call you Hugo for short? Is that appropriate?
Yes, it is. It is appropriate.
Okay.
It's appropriate.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right.
So again, it's a personal preference, but when you use Anaconda, when you use PyCharm, you're kind of put in everything's handed to you on a silver platter, as we say in the English speaking world. It means you're spoiled. And I'm not trying to make fun of people that use PyCharm or Anaconda. I'm just saying it's good to know how to manage this stuff from the command line. And Dr. Sommer, we're actually going to see how to easily, you can create new virtual environments from VS Code. I'm going to let one of Ghaith's videos cover that, but I'll show how to switch environments in VS Code here in a little bit. Okay, so now we have our new virtual environment, and amongst our other ones, we see it showing up in our list over here. We see how to do this from the command line. By the way, you can manage virtual environments without using virtual environment wrapper. I'm just saying, I think it's a good way to manage them because it makes things a little bit easier. So I want to not be in this now because I finished doing my pip installs. Obviously, I would have done many more. But again, once you have all the pip installs you want in one environment, you want to do, you would be in that virtual environment. I should have showed you this while I was still in it. You can do freeze, and then you can pipe that to a specific file name. Most people use requirements and they pass it around that way, and you do text, and it will put all the modules you've installed into the requirements.txt file, and then you can actually pip install all the modules that are listed in a requirements file, and that way you don't have to do individual installs. And I will add a video for that to this same virtual environments directory on our GitHub. Okay, so we've seen how to do that. We can create a new virtual environment, but what if, oh no, I need to go do this same thing for Python 3.7, because that big app I'm working on, I don't want to take the time to make sure it's going to work okay in Python 3.9. So I really need to go install a new one there. Well, I've got two options. I can go change the order of my Python directories in my path variable. So let me show you what I mean. And I'm actually showing the wrong string, but trust me, I'm going to just type env in my Windows search bar, and that brings up an option to edit the system environment variables. So this is hidden from you at the moment, but I will click that, and that will start up. Where'd it go? Oh, the windows I think were hiding behind y'all's faces. Now I'm in the system properties, I'm looking at advanced, and again, I just typed env at the start bar for Windows. And I go into environment variables, and I've shown you this before, I think, but I look at path and I edit that path. And if I want to start working on 3.7 instead, I can move these up so they take precedence. And then because I'm mostly working in Python 3.7 still, that would maybe make more sense. But I'm going to cancel out of that so that doesn't happen. I just wanted to show you all that. Or I can be, as I've already showed you, very specific. And I can go over to look again at my app data, go to local, go to programs. And you might be thinking, Tom, why didn't you have multiple multiple file explorers open for each of these directories so you don't have to move around so much? I would do that for myself. But for this lecture, I thought it was better that I show you me moving around. So Python. Now I want to do a new environment for Python 3.7. I click here. I know that pip's in here, and I just want to type pip. So I copy this into my keyboard buffer. I could do Control-C or Control-Insert. I go back over to my command prompt. And now I'm in scripts where my virtual environment files are, command files, batch files. And I'm going to paste that in there. And I'm going to say make virtual environment. And I'm going to call it Py 3.7 cool. And so that'll create yet another one. And there I'm already in it. And so now I can work just to check this. I'll open the Python interpreter. Oh, I did something wrong. That's disturbing. I will find out why that happened in a video. Oh, I'm sorry. That is correct. I just forgot this. Just because you're in a Python virtual environment, if you're at a system prompt, that doesn't mean that it's going to do everything system-wise according to that virtual environment. You can still operate system commands, which Python is, from a virtual environment. So if I wanted to start the interpreters independent of what environment you're in. Okay, I will now start a session of VS Code. Oh, it started all of them.
Tom, also I think Naman has a question that
Yes.
if we install the packages on one virtual environment and then we move to another virtual environment, we should reinstall the packages. This is the question, right or not?
Yes. You only have, I'm hearing a ringing. Are you guys hearing it?
No.
Oh, I see what's going on. This is my cell phone. Yes. When you pip install something in one virtual environment, it is only being installed for that virtual environment. Make sense? Okay. Excellent.
Okay. The other question is from Alok. Can we make copies of virtual environment?
No, but and a lot of people have wanted to figure out a way to do that. You cannot, but what you can do is you do that freeze and you basically create a list of all your pip modules, or excuse me, all your Python modules in that virtual environment. And then when you go to the other virtual environment, while you're in that one, you can do pip install -r and then the name of your requirements file. And again, I'm going to create a video for that so we don't take up time for that class. You may think, well, wouldn't you want to take up time in class for that? Yes, it's just that I'm trying to manage our time this morning. And I thought it would be actually better if you had a file for, excuse me, a separate video for that. Okay, I realized too, let me close folder here. And I want to show you all a simpler program real quick that I'm going to run. So I'm going to open folder. By the way, I could open a specific folder this way that I'm showing y'all now. I could go over here. I could go to where I keep my copy of our repo for the class, which is right here. This is the directory I've been speaking of that has all our instructional videos, or it will soon. I'm almost done with them. Guy's done all the ones that I think he wants to do initially for VS Code. Now at this point, I could open at one of these levels and open and show y'all something. I was going to go into here, for example. There's some files in here, but I'm going to show y'all a different way to do this completely. I'm going to close this, and instead of open it that way, I want to show you a very constructive way to be lazy. It's good to keep these File Explorer windows open, in my opinion. And then I really just want to start VS Code for that directory. So you can see, let me just show you again. I'm in mentoring, and I'm just right-clicking on that, open with code. I wish they would call it VS Code, but that's what it is. And the icon was reminding us, and it's making sure it doesn't open somewhere. It did it to me again, guys. That's it's frustrating. Okay, I'm shrinking my other windows so I can make sure. Did it open up? Is it hiding back here? Okay, well, I guess this is good because it happens to everyone. So it's got all these windows open. I'm going to, again, right-click on this image. And it, oh, I think I have to be very careful to right-click on the, darn it. This is embarrassing. Okay, why is it being that way? Okay, I'm going to try one other thing. Well, anyway, normally you can do that. Oh, there it is. It's hiding. It's hiding behind y'all again. It likes y'all. Okay. Let's say I was running this file. This is the program I've written to clean up the email address list from our Slack work group so that when Ghaith and I update the invitations for this class in our mentoring session, all the correct people get it. At least, well, we do that once a week. So that's why some people don't get the invite, because they were added after we did the update. But you can see right now it remembers, hey, you were last using Pi 3.9 standard. Oh, I don't want to use that virtual environment for this script. What can I do? Just click on it. Oh my. And Dr. Sommer, this is where I'm lazy. I prefer, I just love that a good IDE can do this for you. By the way, Atom and Sublime will do the same thing. Of course, PyCharm does. But yeah, I wish Kushal was here today, but y'all remember he was having trouble with Anaconda? Well, you just got to know what's happening with your paths. And so there's where the someone needs to go on mute, please. Thank you. I don't know who it is. I wonder if it's me. Oh, well, anyway. So that's that was when I had Anaconda installed. This is the one that I would say I would open right now, and I could switch to that and you can see it updates there. But if I click that one accidentally, look at this. This is that same one again. Here's my web version that I showed y'all. Here's the one I created that I can't remember even why I created it. But look at this one. This is not a virtual environment. It's just an environment. What is it? It's the main system level for Python 3.7. Isn't that great? Now you think, oh, what is this program? LibreOffice. Well, LibreOffice is the Office suite used by mostly Linux, but you can download it for Windows too. And so what's exciting is it's got its own version of Python for what stuff it uses Python for. I've got my 3.8 version virtual environment. And see, if you have a scheme for the way you name your virtual environments, it'll be really clear to you that that's a virtual environment. Here's my system level 3.8 install. Here's the new cool one that we created. Here's the one I created for the video that I made for y'all. And by the way, I had to use 3.8 for transformers because a lot of the tools for transformers aren't ready for 3.9 yet. Or they work more reliably for 3.8. There's the 3.9 cool. I'm sorry I'm going over this in such detail, but I just want to show you, you get your virtual environments listed and more. You get all your system level environments listed too. So now I can be operating in that virtual environment. Oh, it wants me to pick one now that I've got it open. I think I can hit escape though. And really that's it. Now, why would you use these virtual environments? Again, sometimes your projects get pretty long and you have specific versions of modules installed to support that. And just to be safe, you want to keep that in that environment and get a release out. There's nothing more important than getting an initial release out. Once that's out, now it's time to go back and play with things like, hey, which modules can I update without breaking this application? Can I roll over to Python 3.8 or 3.9? And okay, how much work will that involve? Well, as you're doing that, you can create a whole new folder structure for that application and work on that and not mess with what you had before. Well, what's a clean way to do all of that? With Git, you can just branch. Hey, this is my 3.9 version. And then you can bring that back. But we haven't talked about branching yet, but I did do a pretty full just Git basics video for y'all too. That's again stored over when you go, oh, I should do it this way real quick. I'll bring this window back. And I keep my GitHub as one of my bookmark links. And so you guys know this one. This is the one you have the link to. You can go look at my whole repo, that's fine. But this is the one I'm talking about. And I will have, I've created the video, but I haven't uploaded it to YouTube yet. So I'll do that soon. But this is the one I was telling y'all about. And here's my small thumbnail for the video. If you click on this now, you'll get, I did go through this stuff, but I think this video is a little better than the lecture. Okay, I'm getting close to my stopping time. Oh, by the way, I mean this very loving. For you laggers who were late, I'm not going to mention any names. I'm not staring at any one individual, but really the video I made, when you go look, you'll see what we just talked about in this here. Now, there are some instructions that cover what I just went over, but I'll have a video file that's much like this lecture and a bit more concise. So I think if you heard this and you watched that, of course, those of you that came in late, you're at a serious disadvantage now. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. That mean guy that showed up at the first class, he's not here anymore. I assure you. Okay, Ghaith has something super important to share with us, and I will stop sharing.
Just before I start, I want to ask if anybody has question to Tom before, because we'll move to another sector, something totally different. So if there's a question, I think it's time for now. Okay, I will go ahead.
Your silence tells me my lecture was awesome, but I don't believe it. I think maybe you're still forming questions. So if you're still forming questions, you know, class chat. I watched that like a hawk, by the way. Please go, Ghaith. I'm going to mute.
Okay, I will share my screen. In fact, I was in two important things I have to share with you. One of them, it's about the Visual Studio Code, and the other one, it's related to one of the data sets that we are going to deal with. So I think to speak about the data set, this will be easier right now to change the mood for everyone. And according to that, the Visual Studio Codes, I will make it as videos, just like what I make for the Visual Studio community version. So I'll share my screen now, just to share with you this. One of the projects that we are going to speak about, and it will be maybe multiple projects, it will be inside the same data set. It's related to the health insurance. And this sector, in fact, it's very critical, and it has a lot of use cases inside it. So it's not only one use case. So maybe here I'm going to explain quickly about the basics of the health informatics. What is the meaning of health informatics and how it's affecting the health insurance process? Now, if we look at the healthcare sector, if it's insured, then we have three main parties there. There is the service provider, which is here, which is hospital, pharmacy, clinic, any kind of service, healthcare service provider. And right now, in this age, also there is the digital health service provider, just like a doctor you are using application, and there is some doctors, or even without a doctor, sometimes AI is doing their job. Okay, and then there is a payer. Payer, he is the insurance company, or TBA, third-party administration. It's special kind of companies related in the insurance companies related to the healthcare, because managing the healthcare claims, it need health knowledge. So it's not like any kind of insurance. No, here to accept or reject the claims and the request, you have to have kind of knowledge. So some of the insurance companies, they are using third-party administration company to do the work for them. So they are, at that time, we name it receivers, not payers. That means they receive everything, they do the job, but who is paying really and who is getting the money at that time, it will be the insurance company. And there's then the patient or the person. Now, this shape is showing us how each of these three parties are affected to each other. Now, person, he has encounter with the service provider. This encounter might be a visit, might be a prescription for the pharmacy, or might be consultation, either it's free consultation or follow-up visit, or even, let's say, emergency case, an emergency room. All of this, it's at the end, it's encounter. This encounter, it has specific information has to be provided. Now, between the provider and the payer, right now we are talking about the claim, because this will be the most cases that we are going to discuss. But also there is another thing, which is the request, approval request. That means the provider is asking the payer to pay if the claim is, let's say the visit or the encounter, it's already done. Or according to the policy, the insurance policy, the provider asks the payer for approval to perform this procedure or to dispense this medicine for the patient, because this is the policy that cannot be done without approval. So we have two levels of interaction between the healthcare provider and the payer, which is the claim and the approval request. Now, the person with the payer, the relationship is very clear that you have a policy, you have a contract with them, it's financing, you are paying for get this. So all of this together, it's shaping the healthcare insurance process. Now, If we want to go more into details of this, now what is the encounter? Encounter, it's telling us exactly what happened when the patient went to the hospital, for example, or to the clinic. So we have to get some identification about the patient himself, about what is the facility or which hospital is doing that. Now, this information here, we have to keep it on mind. Previously, when it was paper process, it's clear that you receive a fax or you receive a message from this hospital with the letterhead, everything is mentioned there. So you know that this is the hospital, and in the information included there, you can find who is the physician or who is the doctor and what's happened there. Now, we are talking about all of this has to be automated. Now, automated in different ways. Sometimes the insurance companies, they are hosting the services to receive the claims and response to it. Sometimes it will be the regulator in the sector, let's say on the level of the state. That means they are dealing on the same portal, different servers, just to all the hospitals, all the insurance companies will be at the same servers, at the same, using the same portal to submit the claims and receive the remittance advices. Now, this shade is very important because it's telling us what is our data. Our data set, it will be this kind of information. Personal information about the patient, including the gender, nationality is not important. Sometimes it's not important for the medical cases, but sometimes it's important for other cases, for example, to make some statistics, maybe. So nationality, it's important. Emirates ID, because this one is coming from Emirates, so I add the Emirates ID. But the most important information, birth date, gender, name, and the contact number for any cases. Now, other information, it's about the facility or the provider, the healthcare provider. It has to be there. So we have identified the facility ID. Who is the facility? Just a unique number or code to tell us that this is the facility. The patient himself, it's also coded. That means he has unique code on the level of the state. Okay. Now the encounter information, when it starts, what is the encounter type? It's emergency room or pharmacy or normal visit, patient visit. When it's end and how it's end, is the patient goes because it's done or he goes because he's died, how the encounter end, what is the encounter end type, and also if he transferred to another destination, so which is what you have to determine which facility or which healthcare provider he transferred to. So this is also some important information. Now, the critical part, it's about here, diagnosis and activities. Activities that mean what procedure the healthcare provider performed to the patient in that encounter. Now, this is the cost part. Here, why we're asking them, ask the insurance company to pay, because we perform 1, 2, 3. Now, the diagnosis, what is his disease, what he is suffering from. Now, we can find in both here, we can find the field code. Now, this one, I will explain it later because I don't want to be out of the time for now, but I will explain it later to tell you what is the kind of codes available. And here exactly the health informatics, it's worked well. For example, the diagnosis, there is kind of coding called ICD-9 or ICD-10, and there is other coding, but this is the most common one. For activities, there is the CBT, it's used for the activities, and also there is sometimes service codes, it's used, but it's not standardized, it's used in one state, it might be in another country or another state, it will be something totally different. So here I will explain about them later. But in fact, we are sending to the insurance company patient information, healthcare service provider information, physician information, what is the activity we are performing, and what is the diagnosis, and according to that, we're asking them to pay. And at the same time, we receive from them remittance advice to tell us that this is approved and or this is not. Now, if we go to from the, let's say, systematic point of view, we are talking about a kind of portal. This portal will receive all the requests from the healthcare provider and receive all the responses from the insurance companies and TPA. Now, when we have all of this together, besides we are able to audit all the transaction and check if there is any problem appeared in this transaction, if there is any breaking, if there is a breaking for any law. Besides that, we are able also to create a kind of statistical one. Now, how this information is transferred technically, there is one protocol is used. It's standard way for a standard protocol for the healthcare. The name is HL7, and sometimes most of the cases that I work with, they are preferred to use the XML structure to send the claims and receive the remittance advices. Why we are speaking about this? That's because here I can tell you, for example, 3 samples about what use cases we are going to face. The first one is it's very useful for the hospitals to know if this claim, because there is, let's say, a time to receive the payment from the payer or receive the remittance advice to tell us, are they going to pay or not? So to reduce this time, it's very critical for the healthcare, for the hospitals. Now, this is how to make the revenue cycle faster for them. So the best way to do that, maybe it's one of the use cases that we are going to discuss about it. If we are able to determine this claim, is it going to be approved or not? Now, this is a very look like simple classification task, but it's not simple at all. Okay, so this is one of the use cases that we are going to work on it during the class. The second one, it's the anomaly detection, because sometimes the claim itself, it's looked very normal. It has to be approved. But if we look to the history of the patient and look for some other information, we found that no, this is here, it's not expected at all. At least we are unable to project it, but also we are unable to approve it. We have to make more audit from the insurance company point of view. So this is, it's also very standard time series case, which is not easy to find. And the good here, the data set that we have, it has some samples about it. So it's the data point here, it's not that much big, but it's good. It can help us to work on it. So this is also the other use case. Now, also you can suggest some other use case, how to fill the missing values. This will be also one of the examples that we use the same data set for it. We have some missing values in our data set, especially when it's related to the gender or date of birth, or maybe some history medical information, because sometimes the patient information is changed because of the time passed. That means last year he has this unique number, and then because his residency or his information changed, so he got another number. So how to fill these missing values, and how sometimes to use another modeling, another machine learning model to fill the missing value. So this is also the third use case. I want to share this with you today because I don't want to back to it like this. I want to go especially about what is the medical coding and what is the health informatics, just to speak about the CPT codes and ICD codes and some other information. And then we are going to use these scenarios in our class. So I hope it's something useful for you.
I need to say something. I'm really glad you did that, Ghaith. By the way, guys, I didn't see this ahead of time, and this is really good preparation. As you guys can imagine, as you go into each new domain, there's so much to learn to work well with your domain partners. And we really did want to have a good emphasis on data science for good in our class. And I actually have no background in working with the health domain, but that's Ghaith's main domain. Mine's the engineering domain. So this is exciting to get to be exposed to one of the better data science for good domains. And with that, Ghaith, if you have any closing remarks, please make them. We can close class and see y'all in mentoring. And thanks, Kim. We need that because, yeah, sorry, Ghaith.
Okay, I just want to thank you all. And in fact, this is beside its important domain, but also it's very excited domain. Now, when we are going, you will like to work in this project because it's really excited. You can feel that there is, you will expect what is the best practice. You have, for example, always you have to consider that there is a patient is waiting. So that it's very nice domain to work with. And especially when it's related to the health insurance, because some cases it will be totally funny and some cases it will be totally serious. So that's why I want to share this, because later we will face these cases somehow. Okay, I'm ready to close the session if there is no questions.
Yeah, no, that's great. And guys, thanks for your encouragement and your thanks.